Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. How's everybody doing this morning?
Good
Happy
morning.
Good
Saturday!
morning.
Woo! Boy, we've got a rambunctious group. It must be that holiday season, is what I'm thinking. So, speaking of which, we're going to have a couple of items on the docket that are going to be around that. You know, it's a really important, a fun time of the year, but it's good to go into it with some insights and tips and tricks. So we've got Erica that's going to do a segment on some practical steps you can do when you're invited to those holiday parties and get-togethers. We've got Carol that's going to delve into, as she often does, such an incredible job on the mindset behind, in this case, the holidays and prepping for the holidays. And I'm going to kick us off actually with a bit of a, I don't know if I want to say a book recommendation, but a bit of a book review, and it's called The Age of Scientific Wellness. So we're going to jump right into that and get into a bit of a story time. So imagine you're a fire ranger stationed high in a lookout tower, scanning the vast green forest that stretches endlessly beneath you. It's your job to watch the first signs of danger. On most days, the landscape is tranquil, the only movement coming from the sway of trees in the breeze. Apologize for that. The only movement is coming from the sway of trees in the breeze. But today, your trained eye catches something unusual, a faint wisp of smoke curling up from the horizon. Barely noticeable, but unmistakably once you've seen it. Instinctively, you grab your binoculars to focus on the source. It could be a small campfire left smoldering or the first spark of a dangerous wildfire. Either way, you know one thing for sure. Where there's smoke, there's fire. You radio the team and they mobilize quickly, responding now when the problem is small. This could mean the difference between a minor flare-up and a catastrophic blaze. Now imagine that forest is your body, and that smoke is the earliest warning signs of imbalance, an elevated blood sugar level, low-grade inflammation, or a shift in hormone levels. In today's healthcare system, these subtle signs often go unnoticed or are dismissed until the fire is raging, when chronic diseases like diabetes or heart disease take hold, requiring costly and complex interventions. The future of healthcare, as imagined in the book, The Age of Scientific Wellness, takes a proactive approach like your response to spotting the smoke. Using advanced tools and data, we can detect these early signs and act swiftly, extinguishing the small problems before they grow into uncontrollable flames. But what if we went even further? As you radio in the smoke, a new thought strikes you. The smoke wasn't the beginning. Somewhere, long before the smoke appeared, a careless camper struck a match or left embers glowing. Maybe it was a dry patch of grass that could have been cleared, or a weather pattern signaling conditions ripe for fire. What if instead of just watching for smoke, you had the tools to detect these upstream signals? What if you could predict where the fire might start and prevent it before the match was even struck? In the future of healthcare, we could do exactly that. By diving deep into streams of data, genetics, microbiomes, environmental exposures, even subtle cellular changes, we can move further upstream. Instead of waiting for early signs like biomarker shifts, we could address a condition that allows those changes to occur in the first place, optimizing health and preventing imbalance entirely. This vision doesn't stop at responding to smoke or small fires. It's about anticipating the invisible sparks before they ignite. It's about using the most advanced science to create a world where wildfires don't happen because the conditions for them never exist. A future of wellness as a continuum. Okay, so who are the authors of this book called The Age of Scientific Wellness? This is a relatively recent book. It came out in April of last year of 2023. It's co-authored Dr. Leroy Hood and Dr. Nathan Price. Dr. Leroy Hood is in his mid-80s now, and Dr. Nathan Price is in his 40s. So Leroy Hood has a BS in biology from Caltech, an MD from Johns Hopkins, and a PhD in biochemistry. He's a recipient of the National Medal of Science in 2011. He's a member of the National Academy of Sciences, National Academy of Engineering, and National Academy of Medicine. And he's a co-author of over 700 publications and the holder of 36 patents. Dr. Nathan Price, in his relatively young career so far, has a BS in chemical engineering from Brigham Young. He's has an MS in bioengineering from UC San Diego and a PhD in bioengineering also from UCSD. He was named one of the top 10 emerging leaders in health and medicine by the National Academy of Medicine in 2019, and he was appointed to the board on life sciences, the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine in 2021, and he's a co-author of over 200 peer-reviewed publications. And guys, this is maybe not the type of book that everybody would enjoy reading, but if I was just to kind of summarize it using that storyline of the wildfire, this is kind of a extension maybe of the last week's session where we talked about the headwinds, and now we've got maybe more tailwinds, winds behind our back, blowing us forward into a new age of healthcare. And what they are pointing out is that we've had a healthcare system that is, you move along, you basically have very little diagnosis, you get, few symptoms, maybe it's downplayed until it gets into a full clinical condition. And at that point, that is, using the wildfire metaphor, that is a very much more difficult situation to deal with, much more costly, much more damage is being done. And what they kind of posit that we're moving into is a state of wellness. I mean, presumably we're born into it, in many cases, most cases, a state of wellness. And some of these conditions for disease, it's just a matter of having the tools and the technology to be able to get way upstream in that detection. And we've talked about some of that on this program, and that's kind of why I bring it up here. We've talked about, back on August 26th, when it was allowed to have a continuous glucose monitor free of any kind of prescription to be able to monitor your data. And there's going to be more stuff coming out very rapidly in the next year, 2 years, and that's why I'm bringing this to our attention. So their continuum that they say we're going to have capabilities of is a state of wellness, a transition phase where there are early signs of something going on at the cellular level, and you come in and address it at that time, and you transition back into wellness. You don't go into that continuum of progressive disease and something that is then clinically diagnosed. You instead, your wellness, there's a sensing of a transition out of wellness, it's addressed, and you come back into wellness. You transition because the aging of the cellular aging, it's inevitably going to have, and environmental factors, it's inevitably going to have this transition phase out of that optimal state of wellness. But if you detect it early and address it, you pop back into a state of wellness. And then you transition, you detect it, you address it, you come back into wellness instead of this progression into chronic disease and full ongoing raging wildfires. So we do that so well here in HealthPointe because we're arguably, with or without data, we're saying these are what we know are good for optimal health. Maybe that's weight loss, maybe that's other things, and we're just addressing it with the behaviors and the strategies. But I would also say that there's some things that are outside of kind of the scope of HealthPointe. I mean, to be sensational, if you live, unbeknownst to you, next to Chernobyl, right? And or a toxic waste dump that you are having your genetics being, if you're in the case of Chernobyl, if you're receiving radiation poisoning, you can follow all the HealthPointe, protocol that you want. And the fact of the matter is that you're being subjected to these environmental factors that hopefully you have some ability to get a read on these things, and somebody to be able to say, hey, you've got something going on here. Boy, it sure looks like you're doing everything right. You're walking 10,000 steps a day. You're drinking half of your body weight in ounces of water. You're getting plenty of sleep. Your macronutrients are great. Your micronutrients are fantastic. You got social connections. Boy, that's all good. But gee, based on the data here, maybe you live next to Chernobyl and you're receiving radiation poisoning or something like that. I'm being a little bit facetious to make the point that we address so much of it with HealthPointe, but sometimes we have to open the aperture to these other influences. And I'll close with this. I think as we move into this, the action step that we can take, and again, Carol, you're going to talk about mindsets. You always do so much on mindset. This is a bit of a mindset and a little bit of a transition into practical financial steps. We've done an episode here on the growth and availability of HSAs, health savings accounts. I believe that these tests are going to take money that are going to be available. If you want to buy a Stello CGM, that's $99. Not a ton of money, but it's not nothing. And so I think we need to change our mindset into setting aside a certain percentage of your income towards your own health and wellness, be it through an HSA or an FSA account, or just setting it aside in a savings account, and have that money there so that when there's this test available that you can run on a quarterly basis to check for some of these early warning signs of a potential forest fire, you're mentally prepared from it from a budget standpoint, and you're practically prepared for it from a financial standpoint to pay for that test to get some of those early diagnostics done that could save you a tremendous amount of money and expense and heartache later if it grows into a full wildfire. So I think that's what, as we get into actionable steps on this, we can learn about all this stuff. That's wonderful. But what we do so well in this system and the HealthPointe program is say, okay, what can we do? What's in our control? And that's one thing that I would suggest is in your control, is to set aside a certain percentage of your budget for your own health and wellness. Just set it aside, put it in a separate account somewhere. If you never use it, great, go use it for something else. But if and when you want to use it, because in the next near future, these diagnostic capabilities are going to be available, instead of being shocked at having to pay $99 for a CGM and wondering how you're going to make that happen, you can just reach into that account and you're prepared for that. So that's my takeaway on that. Sorry to jump right into that. Let's go next to Erica and help bring us into the holiday season here as we're midpoint in November. Good morning, Erica.
Good morning. Oh my gosh, Eric, that was awesome. I want to look up that book and start reading it. I have so many books on my list now. I'll have to read them on a few days off in the holidays. Yeah, so I know we have a bunch of stuff coming up. We just got out post Halloween, and now we're moving into Thanksgiving and then Christmas. And so there's so many little events, whether it's at work or with friends, and then of course family. We can be kind of really challenged during this time. So I just wanted to share a few things that I do personally that really help me. And I wish I had enough time to come up with a cute little acronym, but I wasn't that creative this morning. But there's three things that I'd like to share that really help me. The first one is I will always bring a dish that is HealthPointe. So that way I know I'm at least, if there's nothing else available, I have the dish that I brought. And what I found is so many people are trying to not gain the extra weight during the holidays, even if they're not doing HealthPointe, that they're usually really appreciative of having another healthy dish there. So whether that's, chopping up and bringing a nice big salad, or I'll have to, some of you guys, I'll have to share, maybe Eric, I could share with you, I make this veggie turkey for Thanksgiving that I bring to my aunts. So I literally chop up a bunch of vegetables and I make it look like a turkey. So I cut long strips of peppers, and that's the tail, red and yellow. And then we have broccoli, and then I use a little pepper for the beak, and like little broccoli or celery sticks for the legs in the front. And that's my veggie turkey that I bring to my aunt. But as far as the protein goes, steak tips go over really well if you get, but I know that can be a little more expensive. I really like from Trader Joe's, they have these spicy chicken sausages. And, if you just dice those up into nice, little 1/4 inch slices and saute it a little bit with some onions and peppers, put a few little what are they called, toothpicks in there, then that's a nice appetizer. And having that protein before you go into the meal will help you feel more satisfied. You won't necessarily feel like you want to overeat. So that's one practical thing I do. The other thing, of course, is having that protein bar or protein shake with you on the way to where you're going. So if I'm driving to a friend's or I'm driving to a party, I make sure I time it so that I'm eating half of that protein bar as I'm driving to where I'm going. So when I get there, we don't have that feeling of hunger. And that is just a nice physiological feeling where you don't necessarily crave everything that's put in front of you. And me particularly, I find a protein shake to be the most fulfilling because you have all that liquid. So it actually fills your stomach a little bit more than maybe a protein bar or half a protein bar. And then the last one is pick a carb. So most of the time we've been to these holiday parties before, or if you haven't been, you can kind of imagine what types of food is going to be there. For Thanksgiving, there's always rolls, there's homemade rolls there. For me anyways, there is, pumpkin pie, and we also celebrate a birthday. So there's cake. And mentally, I know Carol's going to talk on this, but you have to mentally prepare and plan. That is what helps the most, I think, is having a plan before you just show up in a situation. And so my plan is to always pick a carb. So I know there's going to be all of these wonderful things, and which one am I going to pick? Which is my favorite? So for me, it's always pumpkin pie. I love pumpkin pie. So I'm going to pass on the roll. I'm going to pass on the cheesy potatoes. I'm going to have my big salad and my veggie turkey, and then I'm going to have one slice of pumpkin pie. Likewise, same with Christmas. There's a certain amount of spread or food that I know will be there, and I pick which one it's going to be, and that is usually homemade chocolate chip cookies. But yeah, so those are my three tips. Bring a dish that is HealthPointe that you can eat from. Make sure you have that protein snack before and or after the meal, so that way you don't feel like you need to gorge on dessert, and then pick a carb.
Wow. I absolutely love this. And I can't wait to see a picture or something of that veggie turkey. When you first said veggie turkey, I got to tell you, I didn't picture what it was that you described at first. But as you started describing, I said, that sounds so, like just fun. I mean, that's the other thing too that I like about this is very fun, and this is a very fun season. So
we want the
that.
turkey. We want the turkey.
I will share it on the HealthPointe Facebook group.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. Oh my gosh, such a great practical tips and tricks. And is it any wonder that Erica has such a robust HealthPointe group and growing group of folks that she's helping. I don't know. I haven't checked recently, Erica, but I think collectively your organization of folks on HealthPointe have got to be over 300 pounds down collectively, maybe 350 or more, maybe close to 400 pounds down collectively as a team now. Is that about right?
Correct. Yeah, now you're making me want to look up the actual number. Last I checked, I thought it was 388, but yeah, right around there.
Yeah. So, wow. Well, it's no wonder you come in with, these fun and pragmatic and practical steps. Anybody else have any thoughts, comments, besides David that wants to dig into that veggie turkey right away?
Well, go ahead, David.
The other thing that I think of is Stu Min. The last two times I've heard him talk, he talks about portion control. And I know that's really hard for me. I do a lot of cooking at my house, and I happen to be really good. And one of my difficulties is portion control. And so, especially when you're going to a party, is to portion control, not just stack up your plate.
It's a great point. A great point.
One other thing I was going to jump in, and I don't remember who, it might have been Carol who had shared this before, but since it hasn't been shared yet, I'm just going to bring it because it just brought it top of mind. For drinks, you don't really want to drink pop because pop's not healthy, as we all know. Even if you get diet pop, it's still not healthy with all those chemicals in it. Fruit juice has a lot of carbs, so you don't really want to go that route. So, water is always our best option. I know I always bring bottled water with me whenever I go somewhere, because most of the time the people I go to's houses have it, but I don't want to be like, oh, do you have water? And they, oh, no, I didn't buy any. Oh, okay, whatever. But to make it more fun, you can put a twist tube in it. So, either the raspberry joint health or the strawberry kiwi. Immunity health, that's not a bad one. Getting together with everybody during the holidays, keeping your immunity up. Keeping your immunity up and having fun at the same time. Or then, there's the excess ones, can't remember what the flavors are that we have in those ones, but any one of those twist tubes will give you an extra boost of vitamins and such. And, you can pour it in a glass or even just dump it in your bottle and shake it up. And at least you have something fun. It's not just plain old boring water like we drink all the time when we're at home and, normally functioning. So, and hey, you might get a sale out of it too, because somebody might want to go like, what's that? So that's one thing that I always do,
Those things are conversation starters. Like you were saying there,
Yeah.
Kathy, is like a lot of people would say, gee, what's that? As you're adding it to your water, it's kind of a fun conversation starter. So yeah, that's a big one.
Well, I think
I know
we said, Eric.
Go ahead.
No,
Go
I was
ahead,
gonna
Carol.
say the conversation starter. I think that's the biggie right there. And especially if you're walking around with a can of excess, I mean, they're 0 calories, but you're advertising and people are just going to ask you about that and they're going to want some. So I think that, we're talking about laying the groundwork for January for HealthPointe clients, or even before the holidays going on the program. There's a great example of something that's a conversation starter. So that's an excellent idea, Kathy. And the other one I was thinking of when you said that, but I think excess is even better, would be take some sparkling water. Now, we used to have some sparkling water, but that, they had a problem with the cans on that. But taking, the water and even putting a water in a little cocktail glass with twist tubes, if you don't want to be weird, if you're feeling really funny about it. But to be honest with you, I think carrying a perfect water around with a twist tube in it, again, that's another conversation starter. Or even an eSpring, a bottle of water with eSpring in it. And those are all things that will trigger conversations. And everybody is interested now in health. You're hearing health, like you said, Eric, all over the place now, especially with RFK Jr. becoming the the head of the Health and Human Services, you're just going to hear tons and tons and tons of stuff. So why not, let's just really get out there and create conversations with people, because whether they're ready to do it before the holidays or January 1st, you know, January 1st, everybody's flooding those health exercise places and signing up. Well, we should be just getting them to sign up for HealthPointe beforehand also, so they're good to go. So
I love it. And you know, as I was thinking through this holiday theme, I was thinking of what I might add to it. And there's two things that come to mind. One is kind of picking up on what you're suggesting there, Carol, and that is with us that are knowledgeable about HealthPointe. You know, we go into the holidays and we know, and a lot of us practice, you know, at the start of the year, we're going to do maybe a 6-week cycle. I know I've done that for a number of times, partly just to keep me real with this program. I like doing a full 6-week cycle just to re-engage myself in the process, so I never, you know, slide into that ivory tower pontificating position with people that I'm trying to help. So it's a nice yearly reminder, but also it's a good conversational piece. You know, if you're at a party or you're at a gathering and you're eating, everybody's eating, and to say something like, boy, I'm so glad that, you know, I've got a 6-week program that I'm starting on in January to kind of correct course on some of this holiday stuff, huh? You know, and if they're at all on that anxiety spectrum of what they've been experiencing through the holidays, you can bet they're going to ask, well, what do you mean? What are you talking about? A 6-week program? What's this? You know, and they'll be, you know, they'll be tackling you at that holiday party, trying to get information from you. And guys, we're providing a valuable service on this. If people can learn these elements of HealthPointe, they've got these tools for the rest of their life. And if it just starts through that little, you know, dropping a one-line statement at a get-together, you know, where everybody's thinking that anyways, right? Or it's just below the surface for most people, and a little conversational drop is going to likely pick it up. And so I would suggest that to integrate that into conversation, that you are super grateful that you're going to be, you know, doing a 6-week cycle program at the start of the year to kind of counteract some of these holiday times, you know, where we maybe get some more calories coming in and stuff like that. So that's one thing that I suggested. The other kind of a pragmatic, practical tip and trick that I don't know that we've talked about it much on our Voices of HealthPointe, but it's part and parcel to the program. And that is a concept of calling it what we call bookend. Okay, so a bookend, it's a great metaphor, because we all know what a bookend is, right? You look on a bookshelf and you've got, you know, a bookend on one side and a bookend on the other that holds up these books on your bookshelf. And bookending can be used anytime throughout the year, as you're, you know, even if you're in lifetime maintenance, but certainly if you're active in a 6-week cycle. And that is, this is how to properly address known events in your schedule. Let's call it a Saturday birthday party, or a Saturday this time of the season, a holiday party. It's not going to surprise you. You know, at 2 o'clock on Saturday, you've got this holiday get together with family, or 2 o'clock on Saturday, you've got this, you know, work get together. This is not a surprise. There's a whole nother strategy to deal with the surprises. This one is not a surprise. You know it. And the value of that is you can bookend it. What does that mean? If the event is on Saturday, in our example, your bookend days are Friday and Sunday. Okay, so Friday, you're going to do extra steps. If you're normally doing 10,000 steps, you're going to kick it up and get more in on Friday. If you're normally doing X amount on your macronutrients, you're going to kick it up in terms of staying tight. In other words, you're going to work to have a really, really great Friday on all the different markers and strategies for your HealthPointe program. And also then the other end, the other bookend is on Sunday. So you do your event on Saturday, you follow the golden rule of HealthPointe of don't be weird. I love how you interjected that, Carol. You know, don't be weird. Enjoy your holiday party. You know, make some contacts. Enjoy yourself. But Sunday, you bookend it with a day like you did on Friday. So you bookend it on Friday, you bookend it on Sunday, you have an enjoyable time on Saturday. And if you kind of go outside the lanes, you know, kind of over the rails on Saturday, let's say you don't follow Erica's advice and you dig into 2 or 3 different carb selections, you do the pumpkin pie and those rolls, and oh my gosh, those chocolate chip cookies are there too. So I guess I got to have those. So that's your worst case scenario. But you feel pretty in control because you had a great Friday. You know you're going to have a great Sunday, and it's going to level set that out. But here's the other scenario that often happens. Because you're in the mindset, you're in the game, you're firing on all cylinders like that, you have a pretty controlled Saturday as well. You stick with just the 1 slice of pumpkin pie if that's your deal is, and you just have that one piece and you enjoy yourself. And you know what? You're in the holidays and you are doing phenomenal post Sunday because you bookend it Friday. You had a decent, controllable Saturday. You enjoyed yourself, made some friends. And then on Sunday, you had another wonderful day. And then you're just rocking and rolling. So it's really a great technique. It can be used year round, but particularly during the holidays, the bookend technique is a very practical technique to use. So that's what I wanted to offer. Any other thoughts?
Well, I think then what you're doing too is you're setting yourself up for success because Monday's a protein day and you're going into the week feeling really, really great about choices. Even if you made a little bit of an off choice, you didn't go off the wagon. And so you're going to mentally feel in control. And when you mentally feel in control, then I think all game, because your whole mindset is just elevated to taking control of your body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, any other thoughts, tips, tricks, mindsets? I love your background, by the way, Carol. That is amazing.
Yeah, Eric, I'm
Yep.
going to go out and come back in. For some reason, I just lost sound. I'm going to go back. Please let me back in.
You bet. I will. Yep. Yeah. And just a programming note on that, guys. I know sometimes that you inadvertently get bumped off of here and you're not sure why it is or what caused it. But when I'm in host mode, I don't always see when somebody's trying to get back in. And that's what Carol is referring to. So if you're ever in that mode, and okay, here we go. Okay. You're back, Carol, I think.
Yes, I'm back. I don't know exactly why that happens. That happened last
No
week.
worries. No problem. Great to have you back. Great to have you back. Opening it back up to any roundtable talk topics. I think, boy, I almost came in here. Well, in fact, I'll mention, yes, well, Emily's on here, so I don't know if she's downstairs on the treadmill, which she probably is. It might not be able to speak, but I tell you, this is a time for recipes. And sometimes we say, oh, if somebody can post such a recipe, and that's always great. If somebody wants to do that, put it on our Facebook page or share it out. But guys, these days, if you just have a couple of like headline descriptors on it, you can hit, ChatGPT or Google and find it yourself and not be reliant on somebody for the recipe. So with that, I'm just going to throw out 2 of, we'll just label these Eric's favorites. Normally I kind of don't want to talk about too much of these types of like dessert treats, because I think if somebody is active in the 6-week mode, work with your coach, don't take, direct advice from me. I'll just tell you the way I approached it when I was in 6-week cycle mode is that I just followed what was on the food list in the HealthPointe program. And if there was anything that I had as far as a choice, again, I can Google or use AI to find out, okay, for this 4 ounces of, let's say, chicken, or 4 ounces of, or a cup of, let's say, green beans or whatever that's on the food list, I can say, okay, well, I was going to use yellow beans as an example. Is there any difference in that? And I would just Google what's the net carb, what's the different, nutrient factors. And if it was basically in line with what was on the food list, then I would choose that. That's fine. But I wouldn't, during those 6-week cycles, that was not my time to be doing desserts and stuff like that, like I'm going to suggest. We try to partition that out and say, look, there's a time when you get to lifetime maintenance mode, and that's a different time. But guys, and I use the metaphor all the time that for those that have done like college educations or something like that, there is a time in certain aspects of life that it's time to buckle down and get the job done. Okay. And the most common metaphor on that is some sort of an education, even like a K through 12. You don't just kind of wander in and out of K through 12 and kind of experiment with it and go do something else for a couple of years and then come back. You get on this treadmill starting in kindergarten and you're ratcheting through K through 12 and you get the job done. You graduate, the K through 12. If you go on to college, you've got 4 years or 6 years or 8 years or whatever, and your head's down getting that done. And that's the season that you're getting the work done and you graduate. And when you graduate, that opens up a whole different season. But to be clear, in HealthPointe, my position is that it's easier to stay focused when you're in a 6-week cycle or multiple 6-week cycles, to be in the cycles, do the cycles. And that is your college years. That is not the time to say, I'm going to have some of these other foods and kind of wander in and out of a 6-week cycle mode. It is going to make it more of a struggle than it should be. So it's with that big caveat, that big dollop of caveat, that I'm going to say that in lifetime maintenance mode, or times when we're kind of opening up outside the 6-week cycle, let's say, there are 2 desserts that are Eric's favorites, we'll call them. One, and probably still leading the pack, is a cheesecake. Call it a keto cheesecake that Emily makes. And this one, maybe she will have to, put the recipe up on Facebook or something like that. But I'll just say this. I don't know how many of you like cheesecake. I like cheesecake. I grew up always, like, for my birthdays, my mom would ask, what kind of cake do you want? And, usually a birthday cake is some sort of spongy cake. Mine was always a cheesecake. And not only a cheesecake, but it's what would be called like a New York style cheesecake, which is that dense cheesecake, not that light, airy, fluffy kind. I always said that this cheesecake had the density of a star. I mean, you'd set it on the table and it would like bust the table, it was that thick and heavy. And that's that New York style. But that was back then when I was a kid. And Emily one day said that she was going to fix a cheesecake and it was going to be a keto style cheesecake. And I'm, I'm kind of like this cheesecake snob. I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, but I know a good cheesecake. Well, I got to tell you, this cheesecake, I absolutely would choose this over a non-keto cheesecake. So one of the big things is that instead of having a graham cracker crust, it uses a crushed nuts for the crust, and it's just absolutely delicious. And the big thing is when you get done eating it, doesn't have that sugary aftertaste. It's absolutely delicious. And then the second one, and it's a close second, this one I'm sure you can find on the web, because I believe she said the recipe comes from Dr. Casey Means, which all of us know Dr. Casey Means. And probably if you just search Dr. Casey Means brownies. So these brownies are to die for. Again, your taste buds change over time. I no longer enjoy a brownie that's kind of ooey gooey chewy. I like a brownie that's a bit more dense. And this is got, wonderful nuts in it. And it's just a delicious, brownie. So maybe we'll post some of that on Facebook, but you could probably just Google it. as well. So that's my take on some tasty treats, but maybe not if you're in the 6-week cycle. We'll see. Any other thoughts, comments, recipes?
Eric, I wasn't sure if I had mentioned this, but since I'm in the house today, we're having a big garage sale, and so I just didn't want to fight the traffic out there. But there is, I got this from Publix, but I'm pretty sure you'll be able to get this anywhere. It's called Alyssa's. Let's see, yeah. And I can post this. But I honestly think if you really look closely, because I'm on lifetime maintenance, but it's a gluten-free, non-GMO, high fiber, no sugar added, no dairy, omega-3s from flax, no trans fats, made with coconut oil, chia seeds, prebiotic fiber. And they come in a vegan, and then they come in a regular, and then they come with this is Choco Bites. And in the back here, there's 18 carbs, but 8 of those is fiber. This is in 2 cookies. And these are, you mentioned dense. This is dense. This is dense. This isn't going to be your chocolate chip cookie that you wolf down. This is something you're going to have with a cup of tea, and you're going to really feel like you ate something. And then 0 added sugar and 4 grams of protein in 2 cookies. And one of those cookies is plenty. But a lot of times when people have a taste for something, or perhaps they are going to a party and they want to bring something, and they don't want to be weird, but they also don't want to dive into that, whatever it might be on the table, they can take a couple of those or even one of those and put it in a bag and nibble on that. And again, you're going to really feel satisfied. They're very, very good for your digestive system. So there's lots of things that you can do with that. And the other thing I wanted to mention to you is also, and we do this holiday thing. It's actually a first Friday at our community center here. And so it's a big potluck. So we pretty much face this holiday type thing every first Friday of the month. And one of the things I notice is there's always protein. There's always cheese. And not that you're going to OD on cheese, but cheese is a protein. And there is always veggies, always. And it doesn't mean you have to put a bunch of dip on it, and doesn't mean you have to have a ton of crackers with it, but there's always protein if you look for it. Sometimes, unfortunately, we don't look for it because we don't take what Erica said, and that is a shake on the way over. I always have something so that I'm not in craving mode when I go over there. Usually what I'll do is I'll take my vitamins and a part of a protein shake. I love the excess liquid protein shakes for that reason, because chilled they are to die for, and they have so much protein and absolutely 0 carbs in them. And so I just think they're one of the best snacks, easy, quick and easy. Or, you know, your pudding that you make with the protein powder and the chia seeds, you know, making some of that and having some of that before you leave. But again, it's being prepared. But when you get there, also make sure that you are checking on the quantity or quality of what you're eating too, because sometimes you might find, even though you've done the protein and the carb, the next day your weight has gone up a little bit. Usually it's the salt or the sugar or the fat in things. And in particular, I'm going to hit on things like meatball, sausage. Those are the typical things that you would get for protein. And so if there's things like maybe chicken wings instead, and even there you have to kind of be a little careful, but you know, a chicken nugget, okay, well, you don't have to eat all the French fry around the chicken nugget, just eat the chicken. So there's just different things. Or like Erica said, you know, bring something so that you're prepared, bring something healthy that you're prepared for. The other thing I wanted to mention real quick, and this is not just for holidays, but your focus and energy tablets. I think those are just so great for making healthy choices, because you go into a function or anywhere where you're going to be sitting down with other people. And when you have focus and energy, and you've taken one of those beautiful little excess focus and energy rhodiola tablets, you are going to feel in control. And I think that's always the biggest thing, is Have your mindset in control instead of your body. And then your mindset and your control will have a greater power than your desire to grab something. That's when you're not in control. So just so much of it, and Erica brought a beautifully she brought it out, is being prepared beforehand, getting your mind, body, and spirit in control. The other thing I think from a mindset standpoint, this will be more for women, would be have a nice outfit for the holidays, or a couple of outfits, and wear one of them on Thanksgiving and feel really great in it. It's a reminder to you of your new body. And I remember the other day, and I don't know if she's on or not, but she mentioned just casually, Eileen was saying how she took over to her mom all the outfits she outgrew, because her mom is now on the journey, but is not where Eileen is at. Eileen's at the end of the journey of weight loss, not of lifetime maintenance, but she's got a lot of clothes, and she took them over to her mom. Now her mom's got new clothes to wear for the holidays, because she just made a new breakthrough. She's down into the 160s, which is a tremendous breakthrough, because she started in 220 pounds, I think it is, or something. So
Wow.
she started well over 200. I don't have her figures in front of me, and I'm not sure if Eileen is on. So I just wanted to make sure that got mentioned, because that's huge, because her mom is, I believe, probably 80-ish, and the doctor told her that he was surprised that she ever lost any weight, and look what she's doing. And so with the coaching of Eileen, and she said to me the other day, Eileen's kind of strict, but she said, you know what, I realize she's doing it in love. And I said, well, that's exactly right. So sometimes we as coaches, sometimes we have to kind of call the shots and be not always uplifting, but sometimes we have to say, you know what, have you thought about this, and kind of pinpoint areas. So you're uplifting people, and just always every other word, you're doing so well in this. Here's something that you might not have been aware of, why that extra pound came on yesterday. And so there's ways of bringing it out. We're not czars. We're not, horrible people. We are coaches to uplift and help and direct and encourage people through their travels. And so there were some things that I just really quickly wanted to go. I don't know what time. Oh, I wanted to real quickly go through, just to make people aware before the holidays, so that their mindset is peaked and is strong. And I love that book that you mentioned, The Age of Scientific Wellness. Hit it before the first signs of danger. And that's where HealthPointe comes in. If we all did HealthPointe, not even weight loss, but the HealthPointe lifestyle, we would approach things way before the danger zone. Sometimes it's because of our sloppy health style that we do get in the danger zone. Well, let's stay out of the danger zone. Let's get into the preventative mode. I've always felt preventative is so much better than having to go back and fix it up. It kind of reminds me of sometimes I used to be in dressmaking 1,000 years ago. This was before my entrepreneurial business. But anyway, and I remember people would come in and they'd have me redo something for them. It was always harder to redo something than it was to just cut into something and make it from scratch. And so I think instead of redoing in our healthy lifestyle journey, let's just not have to redo or do a do-over, which takes so much more time, but let's just cut into the pattern and make it right in the beginning while we are healthy and while we can make those healthy choices. But what I wanted to just real quickly touch on, and cut me off, Eric, if we run out of time here.
No,
but,
this is great.
This just all ties into what you and Erica and David and Kathy all brought into focus today. And it just goes back to something called pitfalls that we can fall into. And so these are just things to be aware of if you're coaching or aware of if you're on the program. As we enter the holiday season, you might be past the honeymoon stage. And the honeymoon stage is when you first get started on the program. Those first few days, you've lost some weight because you did your protein days, your jumpstart days, and you're just loving this program, and you're on 2 or 3 weeks and you've lost a few pounds. That's the honeymoon stage. And then you start getting into the married life stage, and that's the doldrums, of the everyday stuff that you got to do day after day after day. And then you get into the lifetime maintenance, which is creating those long-term healthy habits. And I will just say, and I just read another article this morning on a medical expert of the importance of having a strong why in your weight loss or your wellness journey. I like to call it wellness journey, really, rather than a weight loss journey. And that is having a strong why, because your why will take you through that honeymoon stage, and it will lead you into that married life, and then that long-term maintenance, which is the bringing up children life, where you get into that heavy duty stuff where, you're about at the bottom of the totem pole as far as of the choices you'd like to make. You're just in survival mode, trying to bring up kids and what have you. And that's sometimes what it is in the lifetime maintenance. So the better you create the habits at the get-go in the wellness stage, and then into the maintenance and habit forming stages. And then when you get into the lifetime maintenance, you've already got those habits. You've got that, as we said one time, clean tongue, so that clean food tastes better to you than dirty food. And I don't mean to, say, stuff is dirty, but we're going to find it's dirtier and dirtier over the next period of time as things start coming out. But you know what I'm saying. So your feeling of eating clean foods is just refreshing. It's you take on an attitude of, this is good. I like this. I know I love having an excess energy drink rather than having a glass of wine, maybe. And not to me that you'd never have another glass of wine. Hank and I have a glass of wine when we go out to dinner. We don't drink wine every night now. We have an excess break. And, so these are kinds of things that are habit forming. And one of the things that this expert said was the power of creating habits is so much more important than going on any kind of diet. Because he said there's all kinds of ways of losing weight, but there's only really one way of keeping it off. And that is creating healthy, lifelong habits that you would much prefer this than that. It's the old book, Eat This, Not That whole series of books. Well, it's choices. And that's what we're going to be doing when we get into the holiday season now. We're going to be making choices. And if we can go in with a strong mental attitude, maybe perhaps have a rhodiola focus and energy tablet before we go to a party, having an excess energy drink at a party, walk around with your can and have people talk about it. What you're doing is you're building your business while you're getting healthy, and while you are, or even if you're not business building, you're helping somebody else. If you just want to be a referral, you're helping somebody else by making these healthy choices, and you're feeling great about it. And you're not going to end up the next morning with the morning after. You're going to wake up the next morning feeling good and healthy and clean because you prepared yourself beforehand. So here's just a few pitfalls. One of them is we get busy in life, and so we stop journaling. This would be a very easy one to fall into during the holidays, because life's going to get busy. We're going to have a lot of extra duties, a lot of extra things we're going to. So falling off of journaling for yourself personally, but also for your coach. This is probably one of the biggest pitfalls. So make sure that coaches, if your people aren't journaling to you, you get back with them and express the importance. And for those of you that are on the program listening to this and have a coach, you're not bothering your coach. Your coach is never too busy to look over your journal every day. So stay on that. The other thing is sneaking in little bits here and there. And I'll tell a cute little story about Eileen because I think we've shared it before, but when they were on their cruise, this last cruise, they ran into a whole bunch of things, lack of being able to send their journal over because of technology and what have you. But she did say, I said, I noticed that you didn't journal for the last couple of days. Well, she couldn't send it over is what it was. But she said, I'm just eating little bits here and there. And I thought, boy, if that's not a big, massive red flag that comes up. And she realized that. And so for those of you that are on the program or coaches, use these little things that have happened to you as a positive to help others. If you have these stories, like Eileen will forever now and ever be able to use the story about, yeah, I was on the cruise and I ate little bits here and there. She can use that as a story for somebody else. So, so that was pitfall number 2 is just not measuring your food and just eating a little bit here and there. And then the third one is skipping meals, because sometimes we'll get busy and we will skip a meal. Well, that's where I think something like a protein shake, a grab and go, hard-boiled eggs, cut up veggies, all of those types of things, loaded in the refrigerator, loaded in little bags or little plastic containers can be so helpful. So if you took Sunday afternoon and you prepared for the week, you're going to be in a much, much better position. I don't think getting steps in will be a problem because of our busyness. I think we'll be doing a lot more of that. But again, journaling that. And if you are on the phone or what have you, make sure that you're walking around when you're on the phone. Just little stuff like that. Not drinking enough water. And that is really important because I had a little thing here, the 11 purposes of water. We always talk about the importance of drinking water, but sometimes we don't know why. Well, here's exactly 11 things why you should be drinking your water. It composes 75% of your brain. And if you're drinking perfect water or e-spring water, now you're drinking water with a purpose. You're not drinking contaminated water or even bottled water that is absolutely, I think only 25% of it is even checked. And so, you know, if you're just drinking this cheapo bottled water, you are kidding yourself because there's a lot of stuff in that. Carrying out nutrients, it helps carry out nutrients and oxygen to the cells. And so if we're taking our supplements, we want that to go into the cells. Moisture moistens oxygen for breathing. And because of now, you know, the colder weather and stuff, breathing is going to be more important. The healthy breathing. It helps convert food into energy. So we want to be getting that food into our system and utilizing it as energy. It protects and cushions vital organs, helps bodies absorb nutrients, cushions your joints, accounts for 22% of your bone, water. Removes toxins and waste. We want to be always flushing. Makes up 83% of blood. And regulates body temperatures. And we want those body temperatures to be higher during the cold season. So that's all about water. Just a few other things here. The other thing is we're going to be spending money on Christmas shopping. And this is a prime time where we might start nickel and diming our HealthPointe program. And we might say, oh, you know what? I'm not going to get the vitamins for a couple of weeks here. I got to get caught up on my budget. That's the biggest mistake that you can make. That should be on the top of your list. And actually giving supplements as gifts. You ever thought of giving a wellness gift at Christmas time or at holiday, whatever season that you're or you know, you go over to somebody's house for Thanksgiving, bring a bottle of Focus and Energy or bring a case of Excess and pass it around to some of the people that want it. You know, these are types of things that are really important. And I'm not going to go through all of this, but failing to weigh in every morning is another one. And again, that all goes to journaling. So I don't want to take any more time, but those are just a few things that really stuck out as I was listening today. And the other thing is, remember that we're in cold and flu season now, especially in the colder weather, where it's cold one day, warm one day, cold one day, warm one day. and then it gets blizzards and what have you, whatever's coming our way. The more our immunity system is built up with our double X and our omegas, the bigger and better you're going to be able to withstand the germs that are going to hit, and your body's going to be able to address the holiday season in a joyful manner. And January 1st, we're not going to be in the doldrums. January 1st, we are going to be in the hallelujah state. And you're going to be able to tell other people things that you did and help them. So that's it, Eric.
Hey, I love it. I love it. You know, addressing some of those pitfalls. That was great. Yeah. The journaling or lack thereof. I love it. Not measuring, and Eileen, and you know, it sounds so harmless, right? It sounds actually great. You know, when somebody says, "Oh, I'm just eating a little bit here and there," but knowing that that's actually a red flag, and then skipping meals. You know, so those three pitfalls, and then the, you know, a reminder on the benefits of water, and then Eileen's mom. Boy, I actually had no idea. I know she's been on the program once or twice, but to be down, we'll just say in excess of 40 pounds. If she was like 220 to whatever, it could be 60 pounds. But
yeah, it's somewhere in there.
Yeah, congratulations to her and everything. Other comments? Anybody else as we're wrapping up here on this wonderful session? Well, I tell you, go ahead, David.
I'll hit one thing briefly, and that is it's better to prepare and do all those things, but in the not too recent past, I saw my doctor and I had an issue, and one of the things that he said to me was, "I'm so glad you're in really good health, because catching it early, we can take care of this with the garden hose." He says, if you had allowed this, as your metaphor, if you allowed the smoke to go too much further, he said, we might have to have a 5-alarm fire. But, and I just think back to every once in a while in my talks with Hank, I would complain, might be too strong of a word, but I'll use it, of the cost of my investment into my body that I use in buying all the Neutralite stuff that I do and the things that I do to stay healthy and following HealthPointe and all those things. And, you know what, as Hank also always says, staying healthy is way cheaper than dealing with sickness.
Boy, I love that. I love that. Your doctor is using such phraseology as well, you know, to bring out that descriptive metaphor of, hey, we can fix this with a garden hose instead of a 5-alarm fire. Oh, such great stuff. And that is, I'm not finished with that book. I'll continue to move through it, and anything that's notable and valuable to this community, I'll be sure to share it. But guys, this has been once again such an amazing episode. I love it. I want to give a shout out to Erica and Carol to on this holiday theme, because I think it's just very timely. I mean, we're a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving per se, but this is the time that, again, we are all about preparation. This gives us time to prepare and think these things through prior to Thanksgiving. And of course, this is also time when, if you're having office parties or other get-togethers, or if you're like the Zampas, I mean, this is once a month, you do the first Friday. So this is everything you do all the time. But for the rest of us, you know, this gives us time to prepare. So I think it was a very timely Saturday morning to do such an episode. So a big shout out and a thank you. And just to continue on this mindset of thanks and Thanksgiving, I know we say we're thankful for this community. I am so thankful for this community and our special time here on Saturday mornings. I just, I'm so appreciative of everyone. And, you know, it dawned on me, you know, as most of us listen to a variety of podcasts and so forth, I'm hard pressed to find another quote unquote podcast that is a community-based podcast, right? It's always the sage from the stage, or maybe a 2-person dialogue, which are great. I love them. But I think we're very unique in that we start into this hour-long program with a bit of a docket, a bit of an agenda, but then we just freewheel from there, right? And we just kind of go around the horn, and it's very real and very authentic, and it's very community. And that is kind of unique and really fun. I know I'm very thankful for it and very much enjoy it. And so with that, if there's nothing else pressing, we'll say, we'll put a wrap on it for now, and we'll look forward to next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a great week.